Alison. I'm the Programs Outreach and Youth Services Manager here at Monterey County Free Libraries. Thank you for joining me today for another episode of Book Chat Kids. Today I'm going to be chatting with you about a very cool, very unique book that we recently got in our collection. And it is called Chinese Menu, The History, Myths, and Legends Behind Your Favorite Foods. And this was written by Newbery and Caldecott Honor author Grace Lin, who some of you may have heard of. Grace Lin's written other books like Where the Mountain Meets the Moon and The Year of the Dog. And this is a nonfiction work. It is very interesting because it takes a really in-depth look at Chinese food and a menu that a lot of us in America are very familiar with, but really goes into depth and explains the history behind the food. And it goes into these cool myths that show the origin stories of a lot of these dishes and foods. So it's got a lot going on in it, and it's very interesting. And I thought that one of the best ways to introduce this book is to actually read the author's note at the end, because I felt like this really summed up a lot about the book. So the author's note states, I had the idea for this Chinese menu story feast many years ago. Back in 2004, I wrote and illustrated a picture book called Fortune Cookie Fortunes. Upon researching the origin of the fortune cookie, I learned that even though it was always associated with Chinese food, it was a completely American invention. And when I mentioned this to people, many of them exclaimed, oh, so fortune cookies aren't really Chinese. This was always said in a tone of disdain, sometimes disgust, and this bothered me. For, as an American-born Asian person who struggled to find connection with her heritage, I could easily see the same words said about me. Maybe I thought I should do a whole book on American Chinese restaurant food, a book that would give American Chinese food some respect. But it took over 15 years for me to make the attempt. I'm not exactly sure why I waited, but I am glad I did. Writing novels such as Where the Mountain Meets the Moon and When the Sea Turned to Silver have given me my confidence in my identity that I did not have years ago. In those books, I adapted Chinese folktales to fit my own narrative, balancing the original spirit of the stories with my own Asian American storytelling. And by doing that, I found a way to truly connect to my cultural heritage. I found that adapting the folktales with my own voice gave me the power to claim the Asian part of my Asian American identity and to do it with pride. Which is what I hope this book does for my readers as well, because American Chinese food is not something to be ashamed of or to scorn. Yes, every Chinese dish served in an American restaurant has been adapted and changed. Yes, many do not have the flavors of traditional Chinese cuisine and are unlike what you would find in China. But Chinese American cuisine is the flavor of resilience, the flavor of adaptability, the flavor of persistence and triumph. Above everything, this food is the flavor of America. Because right upon their arrival in the United States during the Gold Rush, Chinese immigrants faced racism, violence, and almost never-ending hardship. But they used their cuisine with its rich and wonderful histories and myths to survive. They constantly adapted and changed their recipes to use the ingredients that were locally available and to woo non-Chinese customers. By doing so, they created a new branch of Chinese cuisine, the Chinese cuisine of the diaspora. And this creation allowed Chinese immigrants not only to survive, but eventually to thrive. So I think that's not the entire author's note, but I think that gives a really good overview as to what this book is seeking out to achieve. And it's just really interesting. So at the beginning, there is a timeline of all the dishes that are covered in this book. And it goes over the dishes in sections. So it's got mains, it's got like main entrees, a section about desserts, which actually goes into how in China there isn't actually, culturally in China there isn't actually a dessert course, side dishes, appetizers, soups, everything. And it starts with the origin of chopsticks. And I just love each section comes with a really beautiful illustration. So at the start of each little section about each dish, there is another beautiful illustration that goes along with the folktale. And then it starts with the dish or the food. It goes into a personal narrative written by the author that also talks about her history with the dish, as well as some actual historical information, and that's usually, that's always in the italics in a different color, and then starts a folktale about the dish and the origin of the dish. So each part is separated out like that. So you get this really cool balance of historical information and mythology. So this is a really cool book because it blends all of these different things together. So you have It's a book of folk tales, it's a book of mythology, it's a book of nonfiction about the history of these recipes. There's a recipe in the back, so it's part cookbook, it's part memoir because it talks about the author's relationship with it. So it really has just a lot packed into it, and it's just very interesting. It'll also make you very hungry. We had Chinese food after I finished reading it. So I really hope that you'll check this out. It was a lot more surprising than I imagined it would be. I got so much out of it. It's just so interesting and something to really spend a lot of time with. So again, that's Chinese Menu by Grace Lin. We have it in our collection, and I hope that you will check it out. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.